Happy Monday, y'all. This is Charlene from Lady in Waiting 222, and today is our Monday mini devotional. Today, we are talking about being unbound, unraveling. This was a word that I kept hearing after coming back from a much needed retreat back in June. And I just want to share with you a little bit about what God has shared with me. This is something that I shared at our recent In Pursuit of Purpose encounter that happened in Florida in the beginning of October. For more information, you can click below in the link description. But I just wanted to share just a little bit about what God highlighted for me and how important it is for when God is bringing us out of something, when we're becoming unbound and He is allowing us to be unraveled in a good way, how important community is. And so we're going to be reading from John chapter 11. The verse of focus is going to be verse 44, but I do want to read it in context. I'm going to be reading John chapter 11, verses 38 through 44, the English Standard Version. And it reads, "Then Jesus, deeply moved again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it. Jesus said, 'Take away the stone.' Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, 'Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for he has been dead 4 days.' Jesus said to her, 'Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?' So they took away the stone. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, 'Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me.' When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, 'Lazarus, come out.' The man who had died came out, his hands and feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, 'Unbind him and let him go.'" Now, we all know the story of Lazarus. If you don't, I would encourage you to go back and read it in context. Here it is. Jesus has now come to the place where his dear friend Lazarus is lying, right, in a tomb. And there's so much to unpack here, but I want to focus on verse 44 today. And as I mentioned before, I kept hearing this word unravel, unravel, unravel when I came back from the retreat. And I just want to share just some history. So burial customs in ancient Near East were to wrap the corpse, right? The dead person in white cotton cloths or linen, as we read here. He was wrapped in linen strips from the neck to the feet. The head was also covered with a large handkerchief, or as the scripture mentioned, wrapped with a cloth, right? And so I want you all to pay attention to a few things in this context. Jesus, right? The resurrection and the life was present at the tomb, right? That's verse 38. The one who gives life, right? The one who is the way, the truth, and the life was present. And he was the one who called Lazarus forth, right? And so when we're becoming unbound, right, and unraveling, and God is freeing us, it is important that whatever is dead, right? It says the man who had died came out, but it was the resurrection and the life that raised him, that called him forth, right? The second thing is that Lazarus was raised from the dead, right? And he came forth. He responded to his name being called, right? He came forth because the resurrection and life called him forth. But he was still bound. What was bound? That's what I want us to pay attention to in verse 44. What was bound? What was covered? It says that he came forth bound, right? But his hands and his feet were bound. His face was also wrapped, right, in a cloth. So what does that mean? His hands and his feet. What we do, right? How we serve, our hands, right? His feet, right, was still bound, right? Was wrapped. And that means where we're going, right? Our destiny, our destination, that was bound, right? His face was covered, which means his eyes, his ears, his mouth was covered, right? His eyes, how he saw, right? His ears, how he heard. His mouth, how he spoke, what he declared out of his mouth was still bound. Jesus left it up to the community, his community, the people around him. He left that responsibility up to them to unbind him. That word unbind, or in other texts, to loose him, it means to loose one bound. That is to unbind, to release from bonds, to set free one bound up, swathed in bandages, right? That is what it means in the Greek. And I want to ask you a question today. Why community is so important? And let me say this, why healthy, authentic, godly community is so important. Who is helping to unbind you? Who is helping to unravel you? Who is helping to release you from that which kept you from seeing right, from hearing right, from speaking and declaring right? Who is doing that? Who is unraveling you? Who is unbinding you? Who is loosing you, releasing you from those bonds? That's why community is so important. It helps us to identify those things that are keeping us bound. Bound in our speech, bound in our sight, bound in our hearing, bound in moving forth in the things that God has called us to do, right? With our hands, the things that He's purposed for us to do, the things and the places that He's called us to go, the destiny, the destination, where He's called us to go. What does it mean to unravel? This is what I wanted to also share. It means to undo, to take apart, to destroy, to investigate and solve or explain something complicated or puzzling. And I like this particular definition, to disengage or spread the threads of, to disentangle. What is God unraveling you from today? What is He unbinding you from? What is He loosing you from? And He's going to do it in community. He's going to do it with people who you do life with day to day. So I want you to pay attention to that today. You all now go and be blessed and encouraged. And we'll talk again soon. Take care.